Okay, so let's get ready to go on this. The first thing I want you to notice is that I have everything already measured out. The term in French is mise en place, but when I teach cooking classes, I teach this as ready, aim, fire. Ready is read your recipe, figure out all of the equipment and the tools that you need. The aim is gather everything, measure it in individual containers, and the fire is when you start to cook. So let's get ready to fire because I have done my ready and my aim, and now we're going to fire. Wet ingredients first. Okay, I know my sugar is dry, but when I add something wet to it, it's going to melt. That was 1¼ cups of brown sugar, 3/4 cup of white sugar, 2 eggs, a cup of melted butter, salted melted butter, because anything other than salted butter really isn't worth buying as far as I'm concerned. So we're going to pour that butter in there. I'm going to use some vanilla bean paste. Basically, this is a little bit thicker than regular vanilla extract. I will tell you vanilla extract is just over the top expensive right now, but you're better to buy really good vanilla and use a little less of it than buying a cheap vanilla extract. So figure out your budget. If you're going to buy a big bottle of vanilla, you're going to spend about $40 to $50 right now. But think about it in terms of the cost being per tablespoon or teaspoon. So I'm going to put a tablespoon of this in. And yes, I'm one of those cooks that doesn't always measure. All right, we've got a tablespoon of vanilla bean paste. We're just going to mix this together. I know it looks like I have an absolutely huge bowl for one batch of cookies. I learned this from experience, and that is, how many times have you done this where you started with a bowl and you put everything in only to realize that you didn't have enough room to get everything in it, so you had to put it in another bowl. And you started adding more ingredients, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's not going to fit in this bowl either. Start with the biggest bowl you have. It'll make less mess and less stress. Okay, after I've got that brown sugar, melted butter, and eggs all mixed together, we're going to add our dry ingredients. I've got a teaspoon of baking soda and a teaspoon of salt. With the salted butter and the teaspoon of salt, what that's going to do is that's really going to bring out that caramely flavor in the brown sugar, because we had more brown sugar than we had white sugar. This is also with the melted butter and the increase of brown sugar. It's going to make a cookie that's going to spread out and get crispy and brown around the edges and still stay nice and soft in the middle. So I added my salt and my baking soda. I have 2½ cups of all-purpose flour, not sifted. But here's the thing I want to make sure that you don't do. Don't scoop your flour and then tap, 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 tap your cup. Loosen up your flour, scoop it, level it off. Because if you pack that down, you're actually getting more flour than what you really need. So loosen your flour, scoop it, level it. That 2½ cups is going to go right in here. It's going to stir in really nice and quickly because your wet ingredients are pretty wet. So let me get that mixed together here real quick. I'm going to add semi-sweet chocolate chips to this. I think maybe the original recipe called for a full bag. I think that's just too many, and you lose out on the flavor of the cookie itself. That yummy caramely flavor that I'm telling you about from the brown sugar and the salt and the butter. So I back off, and I only use a half a package, which is about a cup. So once you have your flour mostly all mixed in there, I'm going to dump in a cup of semi-sweet chocolate chips. That's my preference. I'm also going to add in a cup of finely chopped pecans. I have mixed this before where I've done pecans and walnuts. I think this would be a really good recipe to use almonds and use almond extract instead of vanilla, or even both, vanilla and almond. Could make a real yummy cookie too. Okay, well, we're just going to incorporate these chocolate chips and the nuts, and you can see how quickly that dough came together. Here's my next trick of the day. Pretty consistent sized cookies so that they all cook to the same level, so that you don't have some that are really brown and some that are not. This is a 2-ounce ice cream scoop, my favorite tool. I'm going to go in and I'm going to really pack that in there and level it off. I'm only going to put about 6 cookies on this cookie sheet because, like I said, they do spread. We're going to pop them out here real quick. I'm going to do one more thing with them. And yes, I do want to stick my fingers in there and eat that raw cookie dough because I love it. One more on this tray. And I'm just going to give them quick, I'm not going to smash them, and I'm not going to make the dough stick to my hands. I'm just going to give them a quick tap. And you can see how they are. I'm going to pop them in the oven at 375 for about 11 to 12 minutes, depending on your oven, and you're going to have beautiful cookies. I'll show you those in just a few minutes.